much for coming. So today we have Dr. Amir Rashidian here, and the reason why we have him here is because one of our residents, Bonnie Hudson, said, you have got to have Dr. Rashidian here. He is an amazing speaker. So, all right, let me just read the little blurb that I have. So, Dr. Amir Rashidian, he holds a doctorate in chiropractic medicine, and he's also the founder of the Mid-Atlantic Chiropractic Center. He also works as a consultant. He's a speaker. Obviously, he's here. And he is the author to the book that he has over there, Cracking the Stress Secret, How to Turn Pressure into Power. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. So there was a gentleman sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office, and the nurse came out and called him. He stood up like this, and he walked into that doctor's room. 10 seconds later, he walked out like this. And everyone in the reception area said, what did he do? 10 seconds ago, you were different. He said, oh, he gave me a longer cane. If I could, so my job is to help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. That's what I do all day, every day. We have to do it in that order. And those are the 4 things. Now, if I could take the next 45 minutes to an hour and give you just a few things that you could do easily on a regular basis that would help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger, would that be worth our time together? Yes. Okay. So then I'm going to ask that you fully participate with me. It's a workshop. And the most important is if I attempt to tell a joke, even if it's not funny, you smile. If I say something you agree with, you nod, so I know you're with me, and so on. And if you have questions, ask. I decided to become a doctor when I was 9 years old. I was traveling with my father through these remote villages in Iran. And in this one village, a woman went into labor. She was in tremendous amount of pain, and no one knew what to do to help her. A midwife walked over, knelt down, and examined her, stood up and said, I'm very sorry, there's nothing I can do. There's no heartbeat. The baby's not alive. And she's not going to make it. And this midwife left. At the age of 9, I was looking into the eyes of this young woman who was just told she's not going to live another few hours, and I started to have this panic attack where your chest feels tight, your heart's pounding, you're having trouble catching your breath, and tears are coming down my face. Well, my father saw me like that. He picked me up, he held me, he carried me out of there, he calmed me down. The 2 of us climbed down the mountain, we got in our car to drive home. And on the drive home, I said, Dad, I don't want to feel like that ever again. Like what? Helpless, like I can't do anything. He said, what are you going to do about it, son? He says, I'll go be a surgeon. How's that? I'll be the best surgeon in the whole world. I'll carry my medical bag with me everywhere I go so I can save lives. So that doesn't happen in front of me ever again. Well, 10 years passed. I was a student at George Washington University, and I was on track. I was 19 years old, and I was going to move on to medical school eventually and become the surgeon that I wanted to be. And I went home for Christmas break. We were living in Gaithersburg, Maryland at the time. And I walked into our house. My father had this thick neck brace on. And you could tell he was under the influence of some heavy painkillers. And he was limp and numb from the shoulders down. He couldn't lift his arms to give me a hug, to even say hello. And so we ended up spending my Christmas break that year going from doctor to doctor trying to figure out what's wrong with my dad. And every doctor we went to said, this is beyond my scope. You have to go to this other doctor. Finally, we ended up in a neurosurgeon's office. In fact, we talked to 3 separate neurosurgeons. The neurosurgeons looked at my dad and said, sir, you needed surgery yesterday. What are you waiting for? You've got degenerative changes in your spine, bone spurs that are growing into the canal. It's narrowing the canal. It's pressing on your spinal cord. And it's choking the life that flows from your brain to the rest of your body. Unless we find a way to decompress, this is not going to end well. He said, we need to slice you open from the base of the skull to the bottom of the neck and break and remove the bones in the back of your spine. We're going to put rods and screws in your neck and fuse your whole neck. You'll never turn your head again. You may not regain function of your hands, but we're hoping you have less pain. And by the way, there's a chance you won't survive the surgery because you're old. So Dad was 70 at the time. And would you agree there's such a thing as a young 70 and an old 70? 70 doesn't mean much. We have 70-year-olds who can do backflips, and we have, the other end of the spectrum too. And so Dad was on the older side of 70. He hadn't been taking good care of himself, which is why there was such a high risk with this surgery. And we were terrified. We got in a taxi to go home. On the drive home, I was sitting in the back of the taxi with my dad. I looked over at him, and he's cringing because every bump that taxi was hitting was sending a lightning bolt of pain through his entire body. Looking in his eyes, I could tell he didn't want to live anymore. And I started to have the same emotions I had when I was in that village, watching that woman slowly die in her husband's arms. And I'm feeling the same anxiety and stress and fear that I did back then, except this time it's my own dad. And I'm feeling helpless all over again. Well, this taxi driver took a look at me and my dad, and looked at our faces, looked at that big white neck brace on my dad's neck. He said, "Sir, I know you asked me to take you home, but there's a chiropractor right down the street. Would you rather me take you there? I don't know what he does, but I've heard he helps people like you." Well, I was a 19-year-old know-it-all. So I said, "No, we're not going to chiropractor. He needs surgery." Dad, being the wise 70-year-old man, terrified of surgery, said, "Yes, let's go see the chiropractor." So we ended up, and I didn't even know what chiropractic was, and we showed up at this chiropractor's office. This doctor took a look at my dad, looked at all the x-rays and MRIs that we had carried with us when we left the neurosurgeon's office just a few minutes before, and looked at all the imaging and said, "I can help you." And he said, "I'm not going to do it by breaking and removing bones in your spine or putting screws and rods in your neck, and I'm not going to have you on painkillers for the rest of your life. What I will do is, with my hands, adjust to realign the bones, to slowly, little by little, take pressure off the nerves and allow your body to begin to self-heal and self-regulate." Well, that sounded weird to me because I thought the only way to get better is drugs and surgery. There's no other way. And here's this gentleman telling me there is a third way. Dad didn't want the surgery. He goes, "Whatever you need to do, let's do it." He said, "It's going to take 6 months. Are you willing to come in here every day for the next 6 months?" He said, "I'll do whatever it takes." Long story short, 6 months later, Dad was able to turn his head. He had full use of his hands. He was able to write. He was able to work. He was able to do everything. He lived a long life. He lived long enough to stand next to me as my best man when I got married. And he lived long enough to meet my first son when he was born. So I tell you a story for a couple reasons. Number one is that when we allow our health to decline, we're not the only ones who suffer. See, when my dad was sick and suffering, would you agree that his son also was suffering? Would you agree his wife was also suffering? See, it's the easy thing to do is to let things slide and not take care of yourself. The hard thing to do is to do all the work to take care of yourself and stay healthy for as long as possible. And sometimes we think we're being selfish because we're just doing for ourselves. And the first thing you have to understand is you're not being selfish. Because when you're doing well, you're blessing those around you. Because you want to be there for others, and you don't want them to have to be there for you. And you don't want them to suffer. So you take care of you. And we can all be healthier if we all take care of ourselves. So how important is that? The next thing I want to tell you is that our posture has a huge effect on our overall health. And there's a lot of research. It's in your handouts. Hopefully everybody has a handout. If you don't, let me know. I'll get you one. They're in a pile right there. And a poor posture leads to actual reduced longevity and poor quality of life. And this is based on lots of research. One research was the American Journal of Pain Management that said spinal pain, headaches, mood, blood pressure, pulse, lung capacity, all of that is related to posture. And all of that can improve when we improve posture. The most common postural abnormality is forward head carriage. You can see that in the picture. That's the first picture in your notes. That's when the gentleman is having his head forward like this. Now, forward head posture, one research shows that when the head sits forward, it can add up to 30 pounds of pressure, additional pressure to your spine. Another study showed that every inch the head moves forward increases pressure on the spine by an additional 10 pounds. And so the average forward head posture tends to be 3 inches. 10 pounds for each inch, that's 30 pounds. Plus the 12-pound weight of your head, that's 42 pounds of pressure on the muscles and joints and the nerves of your neck. Now, would you agree nerves are important? Do you know that we have nerves that control the function of our hands? We have nerves that control movement. We have nerves that control speech and thinking and everything else. And those same nerves control our organs. Your heart, your lungs, your stomach, your intestines, your liver, pancreas, kidneys. Everything is controlled by the brain through nerves. Those nerves come out of the spine, and if there's misalignments in the spine, it affects the function of those nerves. That's what the research shows. And you can see there's a picture of someone with a bowling ball instead of a head on that first page, and you can go ahead and go to the second page. Imagine holding a bowling ball like this with your elbow directly under it. You could hold that bowling ball for a few minutes without any problems. But what if I asked you to hold it out here? How many of you think it'd be harder? What if I said you hold it way out here? How long could you hold that bowling ball? Let's say it's a 15-pound, 16-pound bowling ball. Not very long. And very quickly, the shoulder muscles start to burn, and the neck muscles start to hurt, and you start having a lot of problems. And so that's what happens when the head moves forward. Now, I want you to understand one thing very clearly. There's three ways to strengthen a muscle. By the way, let me back up. A study was done at University of Maryland Center for Integrative Health. They took a group of 80-year-old men and 80-year-old women and compared them to a group of 18-year-old men and 18-year-old women. They put them on the same exercise protocol and the same diet. And the percentage of muscle gain was the same between the 80-year-olds and the 18-year-olds. Which means we don't lose our ability to gain muscle and get stronger. Can we all accept that? That we still always have the ability to gain muscle and get stronger. Now, part of the problem of as we age is we lose muscle mass and we lose bone mass, which is why exercise is important. Posture is also important. Now, there's three ways to strengthen a muscle. One is, how much weight can I lift? I can pick up 200 pounds, let's say. I can pick up 50 pounds, whatever it might be. That's how much I can lift. The second is, how many repetitions can I do that for, right? So, if I pick up 20 pounds, I can pick it up 15 times, 20 times. The third type is the type we rarely train, which is, when I pick up a weight, how long can I hold it up? Now, which one of those three do you think your postural muscles have to do? The third. You are correct. It's the third. Because your postural muscles have to pick you up, hold you up, and keep holding you for as long as you're up. But we don't train them that way. We train them the same way we train the other muscles, and we wonder why our posture starts to fail. So I'm going to teach you a few things today, which is why I asked your permission to participate with me. The bottom picture on page 2 shows you that if you're using your cell phone, you're actually adding extra strain and stress to your neck. It's a very self-explanatory picture. Now, here's another study with the British Regional Health. This talks about how as we lose height, how many of you have noticed that you're not as tall as you used to be? Yeah, it happens. You know, even I. So now my 13-year-old son is now taller than me. So I don't recommend this for anybody else, but I'm trying to teach him to slouch. Because the first 13 years of his life, I was teaching him good posture. But now that he's taller than me, I want him to slouch. But I noticed while we're measuring him, and I noticed I've lost a little bit of height myself in my first 49 years of life. And so it's there. But posture, look at that picture on page 3. You'll see the gentleman with bad posture is shorter than the gentleman with good posture, right? So that's not the type of height loss I'm talking about. Is the type you lose when your posture isn't good, when you slouch. And the research shows that when we lose about an inch, about 1.2 inches, there was a 64% more likelihood of a fatal heart attack. Now, chiropractors have been telling you this for 130 years, that when the head moves forward and the slouching happens in the upper back, the nerves of your upper back get compressed. Those are the nerves that control your heart and lungs, which is why. Now, the study was done by medical doctors and physiologists and orthopedists, and it was done over a 20-year period. And they found that when and this was only done on men and not women, so maybe the ladies are safe from this. But when they lost 1.67 centimeters, which is a little more than half an inch, it was associated with a 42% increase in risk of heart attacks. And this was true even in people who have never had heart disease before or any family history of heart disease. They still had an increase in 42% of heart attacks. So how important is it to make sure we protect our posture? So everybody do this for me. I want you to put your arms out, palms up, and bring the arms all the way back. Don't hit your neighbor. Look up a little bit and say, life is good. All right. That's your first exercise, because you can't not smile and feel good when you open up everything and say, life is good. So we got to say things that make us smile. We got to do things that make us laugh and make us feel good. So that's your first exercise. Anytime you feel like you're kind of hunched over or curled up like this, just open it up. Pull the arms back, lean back, look up, and make sure you always say, what? Good job. So another study on life expectancy, they asked, was there any correlation between a person having a hyperkyphosis and having a decreased life expectancy? So go to the next page, and you'll see there's a red line representing the spine of this gentleman standing here. That's what hyperkyphosis looks like. It's increased curve of the upper back. So this was in the Journal of American Geriatric Society, and it said that people who have the hyperkyphosis have twice as much likelihood to pass away from pulmonary causes, which is lung issues, breathing issues, and 2.4 times more likely to pass from cardiovascular disease, like heart issues. So again, we need to correct this, and we need to protect this. I will teach you how to do that today. American Cancer Society did a study. They looked at 127,000 people over a period of 21 years, and they discovered that people who sit too much and that does not apply to Homewood, I know that. Y'all are so busy, always doing things, so that's great. So this doesn't apply to you, but you may know people who sit too much, like this gentleman in the picture with the remote control and the cup of hot chocolate. Maybe it's coffee, I don't know. He looks like he drinks hot chocolate. And prolonged periods of sitting have a negative influence on key metabolic factors, such as triglycerides and cholesterol, and biomarkers that affect obesity and chronic diseases. So it's kind of common sense. If you sit too much, you're not burning calories and you're not moving around, you're not circulating the blood. It's common sense. But it's still powerful every time we're sitting. So after a 5-year follow-up, researchers found that sedentary people had an 82% higher risk of losing their battle with cancer. So this was done by the Cancer Society, I said. So that means people who are active, even when they get cancer, if they're moving around enough and they have good posture, there's 82% chance that they'll survive. They'll beat the cancer. That's a nice number if you look at the positive side of it. Findings in the study, they looked at 8,002 adults, and a greater amount of sedentary time was associated with a higher risk of cancer mortality, and those who were active had a reduced risk. So basically it's saying that those who didn't move around much, if they had cancer, that cancer might have hurt them more, and those who move around, they were able to destroy the cancer and continue living and enjoying life. So this picture didn't come out as great, but what I'm going to do is have everybody pair up, or you can do it in 3s or 4s or however you want, but pick a partner and look at each other's postures, and we're going to do this together. And this picture is supposed to help you. So the first thing, everybody stand up and pick somebody. And what I want you to do is look at your partner from the back, so decide who's going to analyze and who's going to be analyzed. All right, and yeah, you can come on up here, please. This is Brandy. Brandy's my bride. So turn and face this way. So everyone, look, when you look at Brandy, the first thing I want you to look at is I want to make sure that her head is straight and it's centered between the shoulders. So if you see this or this in a natural stance, then that's a postural issue that we need to address. So you'll just make a note of that. The next thing you want to look at is shoulders. You want to make sure shoulders are even. So if one shoulder is, let's say, lower than the other, you need to make a note of that. Because then what I'm trying to tell you is write these down so that when we correct, not right now, but when you're doing this at home or whatever, you're going to make notes of what your posture is, and then you're going to work on correcting it. What you could also do is just take a picture and look at yourself from the back and look at yourself from the side and look at those. So another one would be hips. You want to make sure the hips are level. So if one hip's lower than the other, you'll want to make a note of that. Then from the side, and you want to make sure that the ear is right over the shoulder, slightly behind the shoulder. So a forward head posture would be this. And you want to watch and see how much that forward head posture is. So you want to analyze that. The next thing is you want to look at the curvature of the back. So an increased sway back is not good. A flat lower back is not good either, because people who have a flat back tend to have a forward head posture also. So you want to make sure there's proper curvature in the lower back. And the last thing is, so those are 6 metrics that we look at. The curve of the upper back as well. We talked about hyperkyphosis that you saw in that picture. So that's when the upper back is curved forward. So you look at those 6 things. The 7th one is shoes. Look at your shoes and see if they're wearing evenly or unevenly. If one shoe is wearing faster than the other, if the outside of one shoe is wearing out and the inside of the other shoe is wearing out, that's a problem too, in which case you may need to visit a podiatrist or get some kind of pelvic stabilizers, orthotics, which we can also do at our office for you. So thank you. So you can use this page as reference. If it's hard to read, let us know. We will send you a digital copy of the picture. You may have a seat. Great job. Well, does anyone have any questions? Go ahead and do a quick analysis, and let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, 100%. So there's two factors. So the question is, the study shows that there was a 42% increase in risk of heart disease. How did they measure that risk? Well, they measured the risk by the incidence of heart disease. So they saw that 42% of the people who had this, 42% more likelihood, more instances of heart disease. They found more blockages in the arteries, blood pressure issues, all that stuff, so they calculated that. Why, the question is, why would posture affect heart function? Well, 2 reasons. Number 1 is the nerves So we have two nerves that go to your heart and lungs. One is the vagus nerve that comes out of the brainstem at the very, very top. The other one is called the cardiopulmonary nerve that comes out of the upper four segments of your thoracic spine right here. Those are the nerves that will get compressed when the head goes forward and the upper back curve increases. Those nerves, so one nerve helps increase heart rate, the other helps slow the heart rate. It's almost like a gas pedal and a brake pedal. And what happens is you lose that balance and the brain can't communicate with the heart and lungs properly, and that leads to malfunction. So that's the electrical side of things. The mechanical side of the reason for that 42% increase is because your rib cage needs to expand every time you breathe in and contract. And when the upper back is fixated in a forward posture, the ribs can't move properly. When they can't, you lose chest expansion, which we're going to talk about later on in this presentation. And when chest expansion decreases, not only does it not allow the lungs to fully inflate with air, but it also compresses on the heart, and that can cause problems as well. And we're not getting enough oxygen perfusion throughout the body. So when the oxygen saturation of the blood decreases, inflammation goes up. When inflammation goes up, now the cholesterol in your blood becomes dangerous, and it can form plaques in the arteries and calcify. Did I answer that? Wonderful. So take a look at this picture. It's called upper cross syndrome. So there's a gentleman, a medical doctor, who his name is Vladimir Yanda. And he's very famous in medicine, especially physical medicine and physiatry. And he termed this condition upper cross syndrome, and then the next page is the lower cross syndrome. What happens is, in upper cross syndrome, there is this X pattern where the weak muscles are on the top right and bottom left, and the tight muscles are in top left, bottom right. So what happens is the base of the skull muscles become very tight, which tilts the head up. The front deep flexors of the neck become weak. See, when these muscles are activating, they pull the chin in and bring the head back. When these get weak, the head falls. So there will be tightness in the back, weakness in the front. And the chest muscles become very tight, shoulders roll forward. The lower trapezius muscles become weak. Those are the muscles that hold your shoulder blades together. So the shoulders start to roll forward. Tightness pulls them forward. The weakness allows them to fall forward. And this is the posture we end up with. So the exercises I've brought to teach you today are going to undo that upper cross syndrome. Let's look at the lower cross syndrome. Same pattern. So we have weakness of the stomach muscles, tightness of the low back muscles. So your stomach muscles need to be strong to hold your posture properly. And the low back muscles, when they get tight, they increase that curve too much. It can also cause tightness of the hip flexors. Hip flexors can pull the stomach forward. So this is the posture we end up with if I exaggerate that. And there will be weakness of the gluteal muscles. And so we need to activate the gluteal muscles and strengthen them. We need to activate the stomach muscles and strengthen them. And then we need to stretch the hip flexors and the low back muscles. I'm going to teach you how to do all of that. Does that sound okay? Yes. All right. We're going to do it right now. So I'm going to give you 9 exercises. These 9 are exercises that you're going to have to do every day. How many days a week is that? 7. It's actually 8, because if you miss one, you still get 7. It's that important. Figure out you need an extra day in the week. And at Homewood, it's not possible. Y'all are too busy. Too many great activities. But you can fit this in, because what I want is for you guys to take 10 minutes a day every day, just like you take time to brush your teeth and bathe or whatever. This has to be that important. Okay? It's like when you brush your hair so you're presentable, you're brushing your spine, so that's presentable too. Make sense? So first exercise is called a chin tuck. There's a picture right there, and there's a description of how to do the exercise. And the chin tuck is basically the reverse of the forward head posture. Now, the lady in the picture has her fingers on her chin. You don't have to push on your chin. You just pull your head back. You're welcome to put your fingers there to feel it go back, but you're gonna, now remember how I said postural muscles need to be trained in an exaggerated position. You have to hold that position. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull your chin, everybody do this, pull your chin in really, really tight and bring your head back. I don't wanna see anybody looking up or looking down. You're gonna look straight ahead, pull the chin back, and when you think you can't go any further, go a little more. You have to exaggerate them. You guys look great. You have to exaggerate it. You're basically trying to give yourself a double chin or a triple chin, right? You pull really far back. As you go so far back, you talk funny and sound funny like me. And you hold it for 2 whole seconds. Then you relax and you do it again. You do it 10 times. 2 seconds, 10 times. Now, if you don't compress and really push hard, you may not get the full benefit from this, right? So make sure you're putting full effort into it. That's exercise number 1. Anybody have any questions with that first exercise? Next one is the shoulder retraction exercise. And for this one, now in the picture, the gentleman has his hands this way in a fist format. What I want you to do is sit with your palms up. So I want everybody to sit. Would you like to demonstrate for us? You can do it standing, actually. Stand here facing that way. And palms up. Good. And what I want Brandy to do is squeeze her shoulder blades together as hard as possible. And then when they're almost touching, she's going to pull her shoulders down. Keep them together, though. Don't lose that. Keep them together and pull down. It's not easy. You look great. All right? Your hands need to go back further. Yeah. And pull your shoulders down lower. You don't see. Now what happens is a lot of times when we start to pull the shoulders down, we let them come forward. First, squeeze them together behind you, and when you pull them down, don't let them come forward. That's fantastic. Very nice. Your hands need to be further back. So rotate your arms out like this, so your hands are out to the sides. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Everybody looks, thank you. So, and you're going to hold that for 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Now, I want you to really press and squeeze for those full 10 seconds. 10 seconds of that, and you're going to do it 3 times. 10 seconds, 3 times. Any questions? Wonderful. Next exercise is a stretch. Remember how I said with upper cross syndrome, you have tight chest muscles? So the chest needs to stretch. So you'd find a doorway of some sort or a pole, and you put your hand against that, and you, so can I borrow you again, please? Come stand here. So there's 3 levels. In the picture, it only shows the second one. The first one, so arm out, palm forward. The first one, the hand is lower than the shoulder. And if this is the doorway, Brandy's going to rotate away from this till she feels a stretch in her chest muscle. We hold that for 20 seconds. Then she's going to move her hand up to the level of the shoulder. This being the doorway, she's going to rotate again till she feels a big stretch in the chest. 20 seconds. Then she's going to go high. Hand is higher than the shoulder. Rotate away and feel the stretch. 20 seconds. And then she'll do it with the other arm.
It does not take a lot of rotation to feel that.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't take much rotation. Just a little bit and you'll feel that stretch. Any questions? Wonderful. Do you have a question? Okay. Next page. This one is called an upper trap stretch. So we get tense and tight up here, especially when we sit in front of a computer and our hand is on the mouse and the elbow is not supported. We get tension in our upper traps. And so this one is very simple. All you do is, as you're sitting or standing, you just bend your head away from your shoulder till you feel a stretch. Now you can use your other hand and gently pull. I would worry about pulling too hard. You can get the same stretch by just bending your head as far as you can and holding that stretch. And you can do it between 10, 20, or 30 seconds. Or you can do 10 seconds 2 or 3 times. Yes, ma'am?
The other arm behind her enhances.
Try it. Sometimes you don't need it, sometimes you do. So if your upper traps are not too tight, you may need to put the other hand behind you and bend away to get a bigger stretch. Sometimes you'll want to hold on to the bottom of the seat with one hand and then go away and use the bottom of the seat to pull the shoulder down as you bend your head away. And do it at least 20 seconds. You can split it, like I said, into 10-second increments and do 3 of those. Any questions? Yes?
What does the cracking mean?
If you feel cracking in your neck, that means something's fixated and something just moved more than it should. So if there's a segment in your spine that's locked, it's not moving properly, the segment above and below has to move extra to compensate for that. And so sometimes that's the one that creates a popping sound. Another reason sometimes we hear those popping sounds is because we just haven't moved our neck enough. You know how when you stand for a long time and then you go to sit down, you hear popping in the knees? It's because you were standing for a while and you do this and you get a pop. So sometimes it's just because the joint hasn't moved in a while. But most likely, if it's in the spine, it's because something's locked up and needs to be adjusted. So the next exercise is a seated abdominal exercise. This one is difficult. Okay, let's bring a chair. Difficult meaning you're really going to feel it, so you'll enjoy this. Please have a seat.
We should let him demo this.
But don't lean back. Sit upright and cross your arms over your chest. Anybody watch that TV show I Dream of Jeannie? There you go. So arms in front of you like I Dream of Jeannie. And what I want you to do is pull your stomach into your spine and pull as hard as you can. Once you have a really tight pull, hold that tension and slowly twist as far as you can to one direction. As far as you can, holding that stomach in. Don't let the stomach come out. Then go back to center nice and slow and relax your stomach. How many of you felt the contraction in your stomach? Everybody felt it? Good. So now you're going to pull the stomach again, tight as you can, squeeze with all your strength. While you're holding, rotate to the other side, all the way as far as you comfortably can, and come back to center. Do that slow, and then relax the stomach. And you do that 10 times. So for each, did you feel it?
Amen.
Yeah, good. Good. You're going to do it 10 times, and you're really going to build some serious strength in your abdominals, and it's safe for your spine. Just don't do a quick twist. Quick twisting is potentially harmful to the spine. When you go slow, go as far as you comfortably can, come back to center. Arms stay up, stomach stays tight. If you can't do all 10 repetitions, do 3 or 4. But each day try to increase so that you can eventually do 10. Now you don't have to do more than 10 because as you get stronger, you're going to pull the stomach in harder. The harder you pull it, the better the exercise. So we just want to increase in intensity, not repetitions. The goal isn't that one day you'll be able to do this for 3 hours. You still only want to do 10 repetitions. So work your way up to 10 repetitions, then you're just going to increase the intensity of the contraction. Any questions about that one?
And with all exercises, never work past the point of discomfort. So
Yeah.
always going just right.
So if something hurts, call me, and we'll fix it. But don't push into it. Like Brandy said, you don't want to push into it. You want to stay in the pain-free range. Next page. This exercise is called a seated figure 4 stretch.
I'll hold the mic and you demo that.
Got it. So you're going to sit close to the front. Sit close to the front of the chair, and you're going to cross one ankle over the other knee, and then arch your low back and sit very tall. Everybody should already be feeling a small stretch in the back of the hip where the leg is crossed. Does everybody feel it? Feel it stretch? Good. If you want to increase that stretch, keeping your back straight, lean forward. Don't slouch. Don't curl your back. You're doing great. That looks fantastic. You just lean forward and you'll increase that stretch. If you can't feel the stretch even with that, all you do is as you lean forward, rotate and put your chest over the knee. Instead of in the center, rotate the chest over towards that knee. Now you'll really feel it. So those are the different levels. Did that work? Did that make you feel it more?
And
Good.
you rotate this way into the knee.
Towards the knee, that's towards the foot. Yeah.
There you
Yeah. Good job.
Perfect.
Yes.
I feel it somewhat in my hip, but where I feel it more is here.
Let me come over there.
Inner thigh. Yeah, inner thigh, yeah.
Okay.
Here, more than here.
Got it. So what you would do is arch your low back a little bit. Good. Keep that arch.
Okay.
Rotate a little bit this way and lean like you want to bring the center of your chest to the front of the knee.
Saying. Okay.
Do you feel it in the back of the hip now?
But still not as much. It's more in here.
Try the other leg.
Okay.
Because if that's tighter than that, you're going to feel it in the tighter muscle.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So yeah, and then as you're leaning forward, go this way. Do you feel it?
Place.
Hey.
Same place more.
Okay. Well, then that's what needs to be stretched.
Okay.
As you get more flexible in that muscle, it just means your glutes are not too tight,
Okay.
which is not a bad thing. Thank you. Next one is called a seated hamstring stretch, and I'll show you that one as well. But I want to show you with my chair sideways. So you don't have to sit all the way in the front in the edge. The most important part of this exercise is that your low back is arched. So to ensure that, you can go back to that same I Dream of Jeannie posture, because this makes you hold your lower back properly. And then what you do is just lift one leg up as high as you can. Wonderful. And keeping the back straight, lean slightly forward, and you should feel a light, gentle stretch in the back of the knee. You can really feel that. Yeah. Good. And put it down. Now, all I want you to do is hold it for 2 seconds. So you come up and hold for 2 seconds. You go back down. You come back up. I want you to do all 10 repetitions on one leg before you go to the other leg. So we don't alternate this one. So 10 repetitions with the right, then you do 10 with the left. Any questions? Now, if it's really hard to do this, don't put your arms up. You can hold on the armrests to make it easier.
Keeping the arch in the back is most important.
Correct. Keeping that arch in the back helps you get a better stretch. And we don't need a lot of stretch. We just need a light, gentle stretch.
And for some of you, you may not be able to get the leg up as far, and that's okay. So again, you're going to the point of don't go into discomfort. So if you can only get your leg up 15 degrees, that's okay, right? So you don't have to go all the way up, all right?
Yeah, just go up till you feel a stretch.
Yep.
And for this one, I think the further back you sit in your chair, the more comfortable it will be. So I would sit all the way back, but try to keep your low back arched.
Yeah, keep an arch
so
in.
let me hand this to you for a second. So I want you to arch your low back. Good.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel that stretch more?
Yes.
Okay. So your low back has to come away from the seat. So bring it down. Arch this. Push. No, bring this down.
Okay.
Leave it down. Arch your low back forward. Good. Really far.
I got scoliosis.
Hold it right there. Now slowly bring the leg up without losing that arch. There you go. Yeah, you lost the arch a little bit, but you were holding it really well, but you allowed it to go back. Keep it up and you'll feel a big stretch in the hamstring.
Doc, is it okay if they need a little bit of support in the lower lumbar for that arch? Can we roll a towel?
Yeah.
Put it behind?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you feel like you're struggling to keep the arch while you're going
Yeah.
up, because as you go up, it's going to be it's almost feels virtually impossible sometimes, depending on how high you are, to not lose that arch. So if you need to, you can take a towel, roll it, put it behind you as you're getting ready to do that exercise to help not to totally collapse that lower lumbar area.
Anybody need me to come look at you, make sure you're doing it correctly?
Anybody need judgment?
Okay. Next one. This one is a standing lunge hip flexor stretch. And so for this one, everyone needs to have at least one chair, preferably 2 chairs. So you would put one chair on this side, and you would put one chair on the other side, and you stand between the 2 chairs. And I'll demonstrate this from the front, then from the side also. So you can put one leg forward, one leg back. This is helping you balance. And what you do is just lean back till you feel the stretch in the back leg, front of the hip. And then you'll switch. So from the side, it looks like this. One leg forward, one leg back. If you can't stand this far back, you could do it this way, however you need to. Once you're here, hands are on the 2 chairs. If you lean back, you'll get a nice big stretch in the front of the hip of the back leg. If you want a deeper stretch, you bend away from the back leg and you'll get a bigger stretch. If you really, let's leave it at that. Now, sometimes if the chair doesn't have armrests, you can do this seated. So you would sit sideways in the chair like this, hold on to the chair, bring this leg back, and lean back. And you'll still feel that stretch there. And this is safer. You won't lose your balance. You need to hold on, obviously. Lean back, you'll feel the stretch on this side, and then you'll switch the other way, bring this leg back, lean back, feel the stretch here. Any questions with that one? All right. Last one. It's not your last exercise, but it's last of the 9. Because technically I gave you 10, but we do 9 together, then we'll do the 10th one in a minute. This one is called a chair squat. And so what we want to do, and I'll demonstrate this as well from the side. So you're going to sit close to the edge. You're going to put your arms in front of you. Keep your back straight. The tricky part with this is most people will try to go straight up. And I don't want you to do that. You're not going straight up. You're going to lean forward. And you keep leaning forward till you can't help but go up. Does that make sense? Good. And then straighten all the way up. So lean forward till you're coming out of the seat, and then straighten all the way up. Now, when we go back, we go the same way. So your hips bend, and you allow your rear to go all the way back, and you lean forward. The reason we lean forward is because we want our center of gravity to stay on our feet. And then you touch the chair. So we don't want to drop into the chair. We want to just gently touch the chair. If you need to at this point, you rest and you go again. Down the road, I want you to do 30 of these. But for now, you're going to start with just 10.
Make sure your chair doesn't have wheels.
Yes. And feel free to have another chair in front of you if you like. There's nothing wrong with doing it this way. Holding on to this. Lean forward till you're starting to come off and come up. You're just using the chair for balance. You're not putting your weight on your hands to lift yourself up. But just have it there in case you need it. And you go back down. The whole time you're keeping the low back very straight.
Excellent.
You're doing a great job. That looked amazing. Very nice. Good workout? That's going to tighten and strengthen the gluteal muscles and protect your spine properly. So these are the 9 things you're going to do in sequence. Do them in sequence. So it's in the handout. Just flip through the pages and do them. Make sure you have things to hold on to, because we don't want to lose our balance and we don't want to fall. Speaking about falling, there's a lot of research about balance. What we have found is as balance declines, and I don't think balance declining is because of age, balance declining is because they don't have all the activities that you all have here, and they just sit too much, and then their bodies just don't have the same balance anymore. As long as you're active, your balance should be fine. But we want to make sure we maintain that, because a lot of people, when they fall, they get hurt pretty bad. Hip fractures and brain injuries are the number 1 and 2 causes of fatal falls. They fall, they break their hip, they hit their head. In fact, that's how my father passed away. He was doing fine, and one day he fell. We didn't know he had fallen. They found him. They didn't know how long he had been there. He had hit his head. He had a bruise in his face, so we know he had hit his head somehow, and he was unconscious, and they didn't know. So they took him to hospital, and they were checking his brain and everything else. Turned out he had aspirated something, and he had gotten pneumonia, but they didn't know because he was unconscious. And by the time they found out there was bacteria in his lungs, that bacteria had gotten into his blood, and he never woke up. So balance is key. We want to make sure we have proper balance. And balance is also called proprioception. So right now, they say that the rate of people falling and getting hurt has tripled in the past 16 years. Which means it's more of a problem. And I don't know why. That one kind of baffles me. Why more people have less balance? It may be because we're all living longer. Now I know life expectancy as a whole has declined, but that's because a lot of people have. So the way life expectancy is measured is they take. Let's say if there's 2 people on Earth and only 2 people, and one of them died at birth and the other died at the age of 100, they would add the 2 and divide by the number of people. So they would say life expectancy on Earth is 50, but one of them lived to be 100, the other died at birth. So the average is what they're looking at. So that average has gone down, which means more young people are getting sick, more young people are dying of chronic diseases, which means more young people are spending too much time on electronics and sedentary lives and eating junk food. And we certainly have more junk food now than we did 50 years ago, that's for sure. So I think that's why overall life expectancy has gone down. But I think past the age of 50, we are living way longer. And there's more centenarians than ever before. People live to be past 100. And that's going to be common. It's going to be the fastest growing age group on the planet, is people who are past 100 years of age. So that's why we have to maintain our balance and protect that. 25,000 deaths every year are related to falling. So I want you guys to not only improve your posture, but I want you to improve your balance. And the way we improve the balance is by doing what's called a single leg stance exercise. Single leg stance exercise is you stand in front of a counter of some sort, or chair, or you put a chair on either side like I showed you with the lunge exercise, and you bend one hip around 60 degrees, the knee about 90 degrees, and you want the toes to be around where the ankle of the other foot is, but you don't want them touching. And you want to be able to stand like that for 20 seconds. And you'll get there if you practice it.
With shoes or barefoot?
Barefoot's probably better. But you can do it with shoes too. Doesn't matter. I would practice them both. You know, I would say practice brushing your teeth on one leg. Because that really is a challenge, you know, and you still have your other hand to put on the counter to hold you, you know what I mean? So it's nice to do it in front of a counter so that if you lose your balance, you can just catch yourself. Certainly, if you start to lose your balance, just put the other foot down. That's why we hold the foot right here. So you can immediately put it down so you don't fall. Now, sometimes you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. It's dark, and you don't want to turn on the lights. And so that's why we want to practice this exercise with the eyes closed also. That one is very, very difficult. So I can barely do 10 seconds myself with the eyes closed. It's very hard, and you have to be extremely careful. So once you can do a good 20 seconds stable with the eyes open, Then try closing the eyes and see if you can stay, and I certainly can't, but see if you can stay 10 seconds. It's okay to wobble. That just tells you that you're balancing correctly. It's not okay to fall. So if your center of gravity goes past your foot, you want to hold on to something. All right? Be very, very careful. Every day, once a day, practice standing on one foot and then the other. And write down how many seconds. Just like I told you, write down things you found in your posture because you want to improve them. Take pictures to see if those chin tucks are helping you bring your head back. See if the shoulder retraction is reducing the kyphosis in your upper back. Write down, hey, today I was able to stand on one foot. I did 12 seconds on my right foot and 13 seconds on my left foot. And then your goal is to increase that. See if one day you can do 30 seconds on each foot. See if you can do a full 10 seconds with the eyes closed. I will be very, very impressed. It's not required that you get to that 10-second mark, but it is required that you practice every day so that you're protected. When we're walking, we're always on one foot. Then we switch to the other foot. Then we switch to the other foot. So you want to be balanced. You want to be very, very balanced, secure, and safe. Those are all your exercises. And by the way, the research in that was in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that talked about why we should do this exercise. So we talked about, I went over all of this earlier when we were talking about the 42% increase in heart disease. Chest expansion is key. What you'll do is get a measuring device and wrap this around your chest like you see in this picture and measure your chest expansion. You want your chest to expand about 2 to 5 inches when you take a deep breath in. All right, so you wrap something like this or any kind of measuring tape around your chest, and when you breathe in and hold your breath, it should increase by 2 inches, and when you exhale, it goes back in. So if it's less than 2 inches, that means there may be some kind of a misalignment in the spine or in the rib cage that needs to be corrected to improve that chest expansion. When we're not getting enough oxygen, when oxygen goes down, inflammation goes up. Inflammation goes up, you're more at risk of every chronic disease, including diabetes and heart disease, vascular disease, plaquing in the arteries, even stroke. So we don't want inflammation to increase. We want oxygen to stay high. So I have this thing here called a pulse oximeter, and this is a device you can all get for less than $20. You put your finger in it, and you push this button, and you wait, and it'll tell you how much oxygen saturation you have. The oxygen saturation number should be over 90. You want it to be between 95 and 100, ideally. And if it's in the 80s, see a doctor as soon as possible. So mine's 98 right now. If anyone wants to use this, you're welcome to borrow it. Do you guys want me to pass this around?
Yeah.
All right. Check here. We'll start here. And just put your finger in and push this button right here. Put it all the way in. Push this button. And wait, and it'll tell you what the number is. The bottom number is your pulse. You want your pulse to be around 70. Over 90, it means your pulse is a little too high. But you just did some exercises, so it's okay if your pulse is high right now. You know, I made you do a few things. So I want to tell you how important your spine is as well. It's not just a posture thing. We know that there's a nerve that comes out of your spine that goes to every cell, every tissue, every organ in your body. Those nerves need to be free from interference. So I gave you some statistics in your notes on the second to last page that talks about the reasons for seeing a chiropractor. For example, general wellness or disease prevention, that was 43% of people go to chiropractors for that. Improving energy, athletic and sports performance, Health problems such as back pain and neck pain, those were pretty big. 66.9% of people who go to chiropractors reported that it helped them improve overall health, made them feel better. 42% reported they were sleeping better. 40% reported chiropractic helped them reduce stress and relax more. 33% reported chiropractic gave them a sense of control over their health, and so on. Even emotional stability was affected. So chiropractic does help a lot of things. One of the main things that helps you balance is the balance between fight or flight and rest and repair. See, when we get stressed, the body acts differently. Your immune system slows down, so does digestion, and blood leaves your face and your fingertips and your toes. So people who have cold hands and cold feet all the time, it's probably because their body rests in fight or flight. Even though they don't feel stressed mentally and emotionally, their body acts that way. And so there are chiropractic adjustments we can do to balance that. Now, I was talking to Gretchen earlier, and we are going to work on having one of our chiropractors at Mid-Atlantic Chiropractic Centers. We have 3 doctors on the team. One of us would come maybe once or twice a month and check you guys and do adjustments here at Homewood. If that would benefit you, we can talk about the details later. The only thing I require is that everyone shows up to the office at least one time so we can do your initial set of x-rays, because we need to see what your spine looks like before we do the adjustments. If we're going to move bones around, even if it is gentle and comfortable and risk-free, we still want to know which bone we should move, in what direction, how many degrees, how many millimeters. So it's a good idea to have a full set of spinal x-rays done, plus an evaluation. So what I want to do to make it easy for you, if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in having one of our doctors come here and see you guys here, make it easy, then what I'll do is, if you are interested, and if you purchase one of my books for $20, we will give you a $200 credit towards that initial visit. So a $20 purchase of a book, you get $200 toward your initial visit. That covers the cost of your x-rays. So the examination is, I believe, $150. The x-rays are $200. But if you purchase the book for $20, we take care of the cost of your x-rays for you. We submit for you to insurance. And those of you who have chiropractic benefits, you will get reimbursed directly from the insurance company. Yes, ma'am.
Do you still need a doctor's order in order to start?
No, chiropractic is direct access, so you don't need a referral or an order of any kind to see a chiropractor.
And one other question. If you have osteoporosis, is that an issue?
We have to be a little more careful, but it also means we need to work with you to increase bone density as well, and there are ways to do that. I want you to understand one very important thing, and that is who you are determines how healthy you are. So it means our mindset is just as important as the things that we do. A study was done where they took a group of elderly and they put them in a community isolated from the rest of the world. And in this community, the radio played music from the 1960s. The newspapers that got delivered to their doorsteps were original reprint of newspapers from the 1960s. The magazines were from the 1960s. The TV shows that played on TV were from the 1960s. You basically thought you were in the 60s. Everything was that. And they left these folks in this place for a few weeks. And they checked their biomarkers. Blood pressure went down, arthritis went away, posture improved, heart rate improved, everything improved. Literally everybody got younger because they thought they were in the 60s. They thought they were in their young days.
They didn't want to leave.
And that mindset made them physically and physiologically younger. How incredible is that? And so what I want you to do, and this is the most important thing of everything else we talked about, what I want you to do is I want you to stand young. Walk young. Think young. Remember the things that make you feel good. Work on those things. Whatever brings you back. Play music from the moments in your life where you felt at your absolute best, so you can emotionally go back. How many of you hear the first two notes of a song and you instantly remember your first love or the first dance you were at or whatever it might be? Music can take you back to these incredible times, and your body feels it too. So get young, stay young, and work on your posture, because who you are determines how healthy you are. It's not always what you do. It's literally who you are. And that's what's the most important. So I truly appreciate you giving me this time to spend with you. There is some information about us on the back of this. And like I said, we'll give you some information. Gretchen will give you some information about when we'll be able to start coming here and helping you guys get healthier and feel better and get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. Books are available right there if anybody's interested. And I'll stick around to answer questions. Thank you.